What's good, Relocation Football League fans? It's your boy Smitty here with Bill, as always, for the weekly RFL Season 5 podcast. And man, we had one heck of a first week of the RFL go by, and that's the stuff we'll be recapping today. We'll also be talking about the upcoming games, of course, heading into this week, starting tomorrow. So make sure you guys listen up to everything we've got to cover today, because it will be some big important things, some good information for guys who don't know much about the league. The best way you get the best information about what's currently going on around the league and just the league in general. Make sure that you save up questions to ask at the end, and of course listen to the podcast as we go on. But man, Bill, as always, man, glad to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here. Sorry for the lateness, guys. That's on me. I had some stuff going on after work. Had to take care of. Does everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, let's make sure that we can guys hear him. Can you hear us?
Yeah, let me know, please.
Make sure you let us know how everything's sounding. Of course, we got the jet engine PlayStation 4 in the background. Nothing I could do about that. Hopefully I'll find something to do. I actually tried to put a sock around my mic this time just to see if that'll help out. I don't know if that will.
I see not a single person saying, okay, at least one person said something.
You have? Yes. Okay.
All right,
we
so,
are a little
okay,
bit delayed.
Good.
Yeah, so
we should be good then.
All right then. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this past week's game. Now this is going to be a little bit smaller schedule, where you guys probably aren't going to be able to see this graphic. Let me just go on my phone just to make sure that this graphic's at least visible to some extent. I ain't going to be able to change it anyway. I just want to see what it looks like. Yeah, I guess it looks like you guys could be able to at least see the scores. So with that being said, these were the primetime and premier games just this past week for week one for the season opener of the RFL season. And on the left side were the primetime games. On the right side were the premier games. Now, we did sum up all the highlights, so shout out to Coach Law, a.k.a. Coach Law, real name Jason, for making the highlights for an hour long. It was an hour-long video, but he did a great job, as always, on those highlights. And with that, we'll go ahead and break down each of those games if you haven't seen them already. So we start out with our premier games. Let's go ahead and do our premier games first, and then we'll jump into our primetime games. So first, we'll start out with, on schedule, the 1 p.m. game. We had the San Antonio Marshals take on the London Monarchs, and man, it was a blowout straight from the gate. They dropped a 28-point deficit bomb on the Monarchs. Final score was 31-3. What's your thoughts on that game, Bill?
Yeah, the Marshals Monarchs game, I got a chance to watch that one. And what I took from that is, I mean, the Marshals look legit. Like, we knew they were going to be, a good team, and we know the Monarchs are nowhere near the Marshals right now. But I was impressed with Agramonte. I thought he was really accurate. He didn't seem to take a whole lot of shots, but he took what was available to him, and I think at one point he only had like 2 incompletions. He was getting the balls to the right places. And then the Marshals defense again. I mean, they just did a really good job of creating pressure, and Schrader being a rookie, almost basically a rookie. I know he was there, but not having much time behind the line in a live RFL game. He just couldn't handle it, and it showed. Very erratic on deep passes. He just needs some more work. That's what I got from it.
Yeah, so my takeaway from that game was just simply that, guys were right. It does look like the London Monarchs are going to struggle this season, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's over just yet. It's just the first game of the season. Maybe they'll rebound, but the way they looked in the preseason with 0 wins, going 0-4, and pretty much losing 5 games straight, starting out 0-1 of the regular season with this loss, and by a pretty big margin, it leaves you to wonder, how good are they going to be able to perform, as the season goes on. But like I said, a long season left to go. The Monarchs defense, the Marshals defense is looking very scary this year. I really think that this is solely probably going to be a playoff team alone off of that defense. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how they finish this year. But this is a dangerous team on that defensive side of the ball. And if they get that offense looking like it did this past week as well, that is a scary team as always to beat. Moving on to the 4 p.m. slotted games, man, Frankie did it. Coach Frankie was able to get the Dreadnoughts to beat Coach Levant's Crusaders Conquistadors with a final score of 20-17, and that was a hard fought battle. Good defense by the Dreadnoughts. They were able to bounce back, win that game. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so I got a chance to take a look at the Dreadnoughts and the Conquistadors game. That was a really entertaining game to me. It looked like in the first half that it was going to be a really low scoring affair and that the Dreadnoughts were sort of just going to hold on. But the Conquistadors in the last 2 minutes, they just sort of, I don't know what sparked them, but they had that touchdown drive and then that, I think it was a pick six, that really just changed the tide of the game. But Frankie had a good game plan in. They came back in the second half and, they squeaked out the win. That was a really good game to watch.
Yeah, it was an entertaining game like I thought it would be. Of course, betting against my own team this past week felt bad to do, but I honestly did feel like the Conquistadors were going to probably win it, but Frankie proved me wrong, as a lot of people were probably going to say this week when I recap these games. A couple of guys we still haven't gotten to, but the Dreadnoughts able to pull it off. They had that one final turnover towards the end of the game that really sealed the deal, and I think that defense is definitely a key component of the Dreadnoughts. What they need to do, though, is the offense, it's running through Javonte Gilliam right now. Their quarterback situation has got to get better right there because Jake McBride wasn't looking too good. Under 50% passing the football. He needs to do better for the rest of the season and next week for sure. And so moving on to the game at the same time that aired during that one, it was a crazy game, a comeback victory for the Austin Armadillos on the road in Oklahoma City against the Bisons. Now, remember in this game, Devin Hobart got sidelined from an injury during practice, was unable to compete in the first week. And, Joseph Torres, the rookie, came in, didn't look too bad, threw 3 touchdown passes, but definitely could tell he was a rookie in some situations. And to be honest, I thought that game was one for the Bisons, but the Armadillos and Devin Wade not looking bad, man. Just saving his name a little bit here with this game as they come back. Final score is 38-34. What's your takeaways from that one?
Yeah, I sort of the same points there from what you said. I paid attention to Torres in that game, Joseph Torres, because I was, there's been a lot of talk in the community about, he should start, he wants to start. Hobart isn't better than him, and I think that he has a very good future. I noticed the inconsistencies on the field, and what's to say maybe the Bisons don't pull that off if Hobart is the guy in charge there. Now, to break it down, Torres came out hot. He was 12 of 15, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns in just the first quarter. But then towards the rest of the game is when you started seeing the rookie stuff come in. He was 6 of 11 for 50 yards in the second quarter, 6 of 8 for 49 in the third, and then in the fourth, only 3 of 9 for 40. So that's where that rookie stuff comes in. As he gets better in the pocket, in the league, he will, minimize those inconsistencies. But it definitely did show, as well as his talent. And Devin Wade, yeah, he sort of had a little redemption for himself because that was a pretty good game for him as well.
Yeah, two big things I want to point out for both teams in this game. I think both teams played pretty good, but an area that played really bad was the Bison's defense, and the area that played really good was Carlos Berry. Carlos Berry was an absolute monster in that game, could not be taken down, and that's what made the defense look so bad. They were missing so many tackles, and if it wasn't for the performance of Berry, I don't think the Armadillos win those games despite how good despite how good Devin Wade played. And so Carlos Berry's always been an absolute monster and a beast running back for the Armadillos since the very beginning back in season 1. And he's still showing that he's still that beast, man. Hard to take down, running through guys. Absolute stunning performance for him this past week. And so moving on to the 6 p.m. slotted premier games, we had the Red Dragons take on the Aviators. The game started out 3-0 in favor of the Aviators, but then quickly came back into reality as the Red Dragons were able to beat the Armadillos with a final score. Not the Armadillos, the Aviators. Keep confusing these teams with the same name. But they beat the Aviators 20-3. What is your takeaways from that one?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say for this one, aside from, I don't think this was an unexpected outcome. I'm actually surprised they only scored 20 points. I thought they maybe scored 25, 30 points, 35 points. The Aviators are a solid team, but the Red Dragons at this point, they're just somebody's have to prove that they're not invincible to me before I start saying that they're not going to run roughshod in the AFC this year.
Yeah, the Red Dragons, they of course just gave up 3 points, but that's what they do. They just shut down teams from scoring, period, and the Aviators only were able to get a field goal, no touchdowns whatsoever. That defense, monstrous. I think it's going to be a pretty close battle between them and the Thunderbirds and maybe another team there for the best defense in the league. I could throw in the Marshals in that category, but man, the Red Dragons defense played superb, and I was kind of shocked, not shocked, but it was a good performance, I'd have to say, by Anthony Savoy. He didn't ball out, especially within that game, but he did what he had to do to win it, and he had the one interception he threw to Lynn Mayberry, but again, that's Lynn Mayberry, one of the best cornerbacks in the league as well. And
yeah, he'll do that to you.
Yeah, and so he paid on that one in a couple of plays, took a couple of sacks, but he still got the job done there for San Diego and Columbus. And so for the last game for the 6 p.m. slot was the Pioneers and the Huskies rematch. Now, I thought this would be a real bad blowout, and I was confused when I first seen it, but then I thought, and then Coach Shiz said himself, that he did not even play some of his guys. Now, most of his guys were still playing, but there was some guys who were still not technically starting in their starting roles, and they were still able to beat the Pioneers by a score of 24-7. What was your takeaways from that?
Is anybody surprised?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's bad. I mean, you want to root for the Pioneers because root for the underdog. But I mean, when it's week one and you're resting players because you don't see the point in putting them at risk for injury, and you still win handedly, that just says something, man. The Huskies are a very good team. They prove it, even if it's the Pioneers. Their backups beat their starters. The Pioneers are, they're 2 steps away from a dumpster fire at this point.
And my takeaways from this, one good thing I can say about the Pioneers, though, their defense.
They got a touchdown?
Yeah, they got a touchdown, too. That's definitely enough. But their defense is actually not that bad. Their cornerbacks maybe not be the best, but to be honest, that defensive line is something that you got to be wary of when you play them, because I think they have really good defensive ends. I think their defensive line, of course, they got Jesse Newhouser. He made a lot of good plays. And they got in the backfield, I think, to Brady Hudson for a total of 6 sacks. So they got back there and they caused havoc. So that goes to show you this may be a team that, of course, is on rebuild mode, but they do still have players, I think, on the defensive side of the ball that could possibly keep them in games in the future. So I'd say look out for that. As for the Huskies, nothing really to say about them. They just do what they do. Hopefully just try not to give up too many sacks, especially to a team like the Pioneers. But like I said, the defense not that bad. But the Huskies, doing what they do, and they get the win. And so to finish out the premier games, the game was called by Jeff. It was the Austin Desperados traveling to Oklahoma City to take on the Lancers in a surprisingly low-scoring game. I thought it would be a little bit higher scoring than this. The final score was 13-10. What's your takeaways from that one?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to give a shout-out to my former safety, Sean Carter. While the team might not have won, they would have been a lot farther away without his, I think it was a pick 6 he had. The Lancers and the Desperados game I thought was going to be higher scoring. I have the same grumbles about the Lancers that I did in preseason. I think they need to figure out what they're going to do with the run game. And for the Desperados, I expected more points out of them. I thought they would win this game, but I thought it'd be by a little bit bigger margin just because of the addition of Chase Mason and Tavion Hall. So definitely an interesting game. The Lancers and the Desperados both, I guess, have some solid defenses going for them right now.
Yeah, nothing really too much for me to say about this game except for the Lancers. They've always had themselves a pretty solid defense. The Desperados, they too as well. I think their defenses are about even. I too agree with you thinking that the Desperados should have probably ran away with this one with more points, especially with a great showing from Tavion Hall in his first ever RFL debut. But they still got it done. He scored the lone touchdown that they had of the game. And, they ultimately ended up winning the game. So just one of those games that just did not turn out as expected. but the outcome was kind of predicted. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and look at the primetime games that passed this week. First, starting out with your game in an absolute blowout over the Chicago Tigers. Final score was 30-3. What's your takeaways?
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a good game indeed for us. I know I don't want to sound, some people, think that being too picky, on my team, but I do think that there was some things in that game that could have been better handled for my team. One, the run game needs to be improved on if I'm going to continue to have that kind of success against teams with a higher caliber or higher overall players. I think we had maybe 60 rushing yards. It wasn't anything to scoff at, but it definitely wasn't something that you want out of a running game when you have a guy like a Togway and Young and Ferrazzi and a pretty solid line. And really, the downfall of that game, that was the turning point, was just those turnovers. The first two drives even, the Tigers were moving the ball. They didn't have a problem moving the ball. It was just every time they moved the ball, there was a fumble, there was an interception. It was just never-ending sea of turnovers for them, and eventually it's just the points started racking up.
Yeah, and that's just about my same takeaways from that game. The Chicago Tigers, I felt did compete with you guys as I kind of expected them to. I didn't think they would be a pushover. Of course, the score indicates that by that 27-point margin, but the Chicago Tigers were still able to do what we kind of expect them to do, but like you said, the turnovers is really what killed them in this one. They do have a great quarterback. They do look like they have a great stable of running backs too. They may not be known backs, but one guy I was very impressed with was Lee Wright, the free agent running back that they signed. He played very well in that game every time he touched the football, and your rookies really stepped up in that game, and I was amazed by how they performed, especially the new signing of Courtney Mitchell. He made a lot of big plays in that game. Yeah. And so it was your team was on fire, and they took advantage of all those opportunities.
Latavius Austin and Jason Henderson, those guys had a heck of a debut.
They sure did, and definitely not going to forget that one. A great game by you guys. Moving on to the next game on Twitch, it was the Brooklyn Barrens and Coach Wood's first game in the regular season, I guess we could say here. Well, he did have games before, but I think he came in with the last game. I can't remember how that went, so he really technically did not play until now. And they had a pretty good showing against the Condors. Now, we already know that the Condors' defense is not that good at all. They definitely need some improvements there. Their offense is pretty good. They were able to put up 32 points. The Barrens put up 42, though, so they looked impressive. Jack Winkler was on fire. The receivers were making plays. And Coach Nick betted that on Steele, beating them on the ground. I don't think that was the right way to go for game planning, and he ended up losing that one. What do you think about that game?
Well, first and foremost, the score might be a 10-point difference, but that game was definitely more one-sided than that. The Condors, they basically just let the Barrens come into their house and just let them punch them straight in the mouth, because that's exactly what happened. Fourth quarter, once again, it was just like the preseason. I don't know if they like drama or if they just take a little bit longer than most other RFL teams to actually figure out they have to play a game today. They sort of come through the first half. They don't perform well. They fall by multiple scores, and then they decide in the fourth quarter, it's like, oh, hey, wait a minute, we're playing right now. We gotta do something here. And like we said in the preseason, now we're in the regular season. It's gonna stop working. Eventually, you have to figure out how to get your team playing in the first half if you're going to expect to win or make a dent in the playoff push here in the RFL. And, the Condors have to come up with a way to do that. That's what I got.
Yeah, I just say a great performance by the Barrens. Condors defense is definitely something that is going to have to get addressed. And, to be honest, you were right. It was more one-sided. They even got their last score of the game in like garbage time and literally the final seconds with a touchdown pass over the middle. So it was pretty steep. And so moving on to the game following that one, our first ever Facebook game, we had the Salt Lake City Elks travel to San Diego to take on the Crusaders. And the final score ended up being 33-23. What was your thoughts on that one?
Well, I'll be the first to say good job to Christian on a job well done, and sorry for just assuming you're going to lose this week. I think he surprised a few people beating the Elks. It was a weird game to see because it's the Crusaders played really well. To me, the Elks sort of seem to be playing out of sorts a little bit. I'd be curious to see what they come up with next week and the following weeks, just to see if they can dial some things in and, perform better as a team overall in the rest of the season. But, yeah, good win for the Crusaders.
Yeah, now I'm still going to be on my side of my predictions yet. I got to see things as the season goes on. But yeah, it was definitely a great win for Coach Bachagalubi, and I already know that he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, and that's what I like to hear, man. Get some motivation, because I'm still sticking with my thoughts. You're gonna have to prove me wrong, my guy. So, but hey, this was an impressive win. First game, you knock off the Elks, but I also feel like the Elks, like you said, were out of sorts in this game. They could not establish the run game whatsoever with the league's leading rusher just a season ago, Darius Martin. He had less than 100 yards. I think he even had either less than 50. I can't remember off the top. I don't have this written down. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he was somewhere around that mid 50 margin, or probably less. And so that's bad. So they weren't utilizing him well. And then Kyle Bain, to be honest, he rushed for over 100 yards. And I mean, although that sounds good, he wasn't really doing anything as a quarterback. And I don't think that most of the play calls really suited that offense at all. And I mean, they still were able to make the game, I guess, pretty close. But at the same time, like you said, this team just did not perform as it should have, and it cost them this game here. And so. Moving on to the Sunday slot games, we start out with the Chicago Cougars hosting the Portland River Hogs. It was a tightly contested game, came down to some really good defense. I thought this was going to be a high-scoring game. Final score ended up being 19-13. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, hats off to Rob on that one, man. I know that after some of the preseason games, some people were chirping, and Rob was still trying to figure out what books he wanted to use, But, he had a solid game plan, and it was a good game, too. It wasn't like one-sided, in my opinion, a whole lot. It was a back-and-forth game, and I think it came down to the game plan, and Rob just seemed to have the better game plan head into it.
Yeah, this is a game that either one of these guys could have won easily, to be honest. I mean, it came down to the final seconds also, because the Portland Riverhawks had opportunities to try to score, but the Cougars' defense, which is arguably one of the top defenses as well, especially overall-wise in the RFL, you could see why it was tough for them to score, especially with Keani Jones. I think he did an excellent job against Sylvester Leach in that game. Leach, yeah, he did get a couple of catches on him, but for the most part, it was lockup city on that side of the field, and Sylvester Leach really wasn't a factor. And so I seen Coach kind of talking about Hunter Mackey on how he really didn't like how he performed, but I honestly, his numbers, he was over 80% throwing the football. He played an excellent game. It's just the fact that he played a really good, solid defense with really good game planning. And, I think Hunter Mackey played the best that he possibly could. He didn't really have a lot of time in the pocket either, because the pressure was coming in there pretty fast. And, it's just one of those games, yeah, he did lose, but I think his team played very well, especially to even keep Chicago to 19 points with the weapons they have.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw this in there real quick about that game too. There's a lot of back and forth about quarterbacks and all that stuff, and some guys not playing how they're supposed to. Man, if you're a coach in this league, you got to figure out how your quarterback works best, because your team is gonna succeed and fail off of your quarterback. Yeah. I just don't think a lot of guys understand that, or maybe they just they have some vision of what they want to have, and I get that, but you got to play with what you have, and trotting out a guy who's not as good as him just because you don't like how the person's running, maybe you need to look at some other things that you're doing rather than the player that's running it, because Hunter Mackey's no slouch. We all know this. If he's not playing the best, then there's a reason for it.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he was playing bad. He like I said, he was over 80% throwing the football. He was literally throwing dimes for the majority of the game. Yeah. He just lost. Mm-hmm. That's all it was, and it was good defense. You gotta I think that, to be honest, it wasn't a bad game plan going in there. They just weren't able to beat him. That's all it was.
And then another tidbit for something that I think that some people don't understand about the Cougars, they are tied with nobody except the Red Dragons for highest overall defense in the RFL at an 87. Yeah. So I know we think about the Thunderbirds and we know the Red Dragons. the Cougars are actually rated higher than the Thunderbirds defense and are tied with the Red Dragons. Just a little food for thought for everybody out there who's sort of, curious a little bit to learn some more about the league.
Yeah, so don't sleep on those Cougars, man. You don't want to do that. And, it showed in that game.
Exactly.
And the game following that on Twitter, well, actually, these games had earlier on Twitch, it was at 1 p.m. The Memphis Steamers taking on the Gunners in a division rivalry matchup. And the Steamers were able to get the victory over the Gunners. Final score was 31-25. A very good, interesting game there. What are your thoughts on that one?
I was impressed. I mean, I don't think I should be too impressed at this point because I've talked to Justin a lot, and I think I trust in what he's doing with the Steamers. But still, nonetheless, it was the Gunners. As we all know, they've been very good in the years they've been in the RFL. And to see Justin and the Steamers go in and take that victory from them, that was huge. That was huge, especially the former Gunner, I think it was, who got that pick six. That sort of, I think that was the last score the Steamers had, if I'm not mistaken. That was pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, that was McNary. He was a former Gunner cornerback, and yeah, I thought it was a very interesting game. Great showing right there by the Steamers. And Coach Jones, he just looks like he knows what direction and what he's doing with that team. I really like the progression, and you could just see it week in and week out with those guys performing at a much higher level each week. And this is no slouch of a team that you want to look down upon because they very well could make themselves in the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. Very much possible. Also, it wasn't too good of a showing, I'd have to say, for Jabri Jackson. He did make some really good throws. In terms of scrambling, I don't think he really thought things out and was too scramble happy, especially on the last drive of the game on a 4th and long. And he didn't even wait 1 second to look for a receiver to get open. He tried to do it with his legs with a spy there. And of course, that didn't work out. And so I was kind of disappointed in how that all worked out there. But moving on to the Monday, the slot games, last day of the week 1 games, we had a big old rivalry matchup between the London Bulldogs and the Dublin Celtic Tigers. The Dublin Celtic Tigers, very impressive in this game. The final score was 45-23, and I know everybody's still going to sit here and still wreck my predictions early on in the season about the London Bulldogs still being a good team. I still think they're a good team. They got waxed by the Celtic Tigers, man. Come on. It's the Celtic Tigers. They were going to get beat regardless, yes. But I still think that this is a team, when they play somebody else that's at a lower caliber, I'm telling you, watch what happens. I'm still sticking with my word, guys. I'm still going to stick with my word.
Like the Pioneers?
Well, they'll definitely trash them. I think they could. Yeah, they're going to trash them. They could beat. I think they could beat the Aviators. They could beat. I don't know who's on their schedule, but I think they still have a chance definitely to make the playoffs this year.
I don't know, man. That'd be a tough hill to climb with all the teams over in the AFC. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and yeah, but it is pretty tough. But I'm still sticking with it. But what was your thoughts on that game, on how it turned out?
Dre.
Nothing good to say about the Bulldogs?
No, man. Like, look, they got stomped, and whatever we thought was going to happen, Timmy Merritt didn't play the way he should have. The team itself is playing out of sorts. And I'm not taking anything away from the Celtic Tigers. They're an amazing team. But, you got guys like the Cougars with that defense and the Red Dragons, and, you got a coach like Armstrong that's always making moves with his team. Like, there's a lot of solid teams in this AFC. And if they're going to play like that, where I can see putting up a fight at least, but they just got stomped. There's no other way to put it. And I just don't see them as a playoff caliber team.
One thing I'm going to stop you on is saying that Timmy Merritt didn't play good. Now, I know if you watched the game, for anybody who watched the game, Timmy Merritt had no choice but to get smacked every play. Literally, the second play of the game was a forced fumble for a touchdown. He had no time in the pocket whatsoever, and he still was highly accurate for the time that he did have. So I don't think he necessarily played bad. He was getting blitzed so fast that his receivers couldn't get open. And then check this. Stanley Whitehead still led the entire game with the most receiving yards with 162 yards. And he couldn't really do nothing like that. Those are the type of weapons he has, and he just had to throw it up there with no time, and they were just making the plays. Imagine if he plays a team that he's got time in the pocket for. It's over. I'm still sticking with my predictions, man.
You can, dude. I just don't think it's gonna be. I just don't see it, man. I don't.
Well, we're gonna see, man. I might be wrong, but you know what? Y'all can come at me when that day happens.
Are you like switching like allegiances here from like the Dreadnoughts to the Bulldogs or something? You've been talking an awful lot about them the last couple weeks.
I feel like a lot of people are like don't think that the Bulldogs are a good team. That's my only takeaway from it. I really think that they are a really good team, and you know that's the only reason why I'm talking about them a lot, because that offense got some serious firepower, and Timmy Merritt, if he's on point, that's a tough team to beat, man.
I guess I'll give you that.
And so the final game of this past week was a shocking game with the London Black Knights traveling to, I put the wrong acronym there, but it was to Orlando to take on the Sentinels. Final score was 30-19. What's your takeaways from that one?
I was rather surprised with this one. I really expected, and I'm not going to say that the Black Knights are as bad as like the Bulldogs, but I expected the Sentinels to win this one. I didn't see the Black Knights beating them this handedly. So I guess, I don't know. The Sentinels just seemed like they couldn't not get it moving. You know, no matter what they could do, it wasn't working. So I'm expecting them to bounce back, but a very unexpected game in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't really nothing much for me to say here. I think both teams played well. The only thing I'm going to say about this one is I was very surprised on how Holden Wolf played. I mean, I knew he's a great quarterback in the league, one of the highest overall quarterbacks in the league, but he was very accurate, and he was on point for the most part with his receivers, and I think that was what made this game end out the way it did. I think he played phenomenal, and that's definitely a person you got to look out for when you play the Black Knights. But yeah, that's going to do it for the recap of the first week of the RFL season. I was supposed to have who the players of the week was, but I forgot to upload that into the graphics. If you guys didn't see it on Instagram, for AFC Offensive Player of the Week, it was, I'm blanking already. Oh, yeah, Langford Cloud, the running back for the Black Knights. That's another guy who snapped on that in that game. And then for Defensive Player of the Week for the AFC, it was Trey Sinclair. He had 2 pick sixes, 5 tackles, and one of those picks went to the house for a touchdown. And then on the NFC side for Offensive Player of the Week, we had the Crusaders quarterback Ben Wakefield. He threw for 282 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was 27-32. He was definitely on in that game against the Elks. And for Defensive Player of the Week, with 14 tackles, interception, and a touchdown, was Bill's very own former player at strong safety, Sean Carter. And so those were the guys who won Player of the Week. Don't have the graphics for those, unfortunately. But they are on Instagram to check those out. So asking you now, what would you have to say was the biggest disappointments or shockers of this week for you, of this season so far?
Well, I think the first one is what we just talked about. I thought the Sentinels were gonna perform better than what they did. But if we're going off of I'll give another example here. I think the Lancers and the Desperados game was sort of a disappointment in my opinion. I thought both teams had better chances of scoring more points than what they did. I expected more out of those couple of teams.
Yeah, I'm actually agreeing with both of those with you. If there's a shocker, I would have to say the Celtic Tigers. And I know that's probably like, why were you saying the Celtic Tigers? We already know they're good. But I didn't know they were going to be that good, man. Like, that defense surprised me the most, though, because their defense usually gets overlooked. And they play good, but usually not that good. I mean, they were generating pressure like the Thunderbirds in that game. And if they're doing that along with that fire offense, that's going to be an impossible team to stop. And, you know, that's a team that's pretty much probably going to be the number 1 team in the AFC if they can continue to play the way that they did in that game. And so those were my shockers for that. And we'll move into injuries that happened that week. It really wasn't that many. We'll do a little bit of a recap here. So as you can see, a big injury that happened for the Armadillos. They lost their strong safety, Philip Berry, 82 overall safety, for 5 weeks with a dislocated ankle. And so that's going to definitely hurt the secondary there. And as for the other injuries, these are old injuries you can see from the Dreadnoughts. You had Cameron Jones still out for some time, along with Marquez Ray, the cornerback. They're both going to be missing 3 weeks for the rest of this season. Cam Jones with the shoulder tear, and Ray with broken ribs. And so those were pretty much the big injuries that have happened and it's been going on so far. You got anything to say about those, Bill, or are you good on that?
The only real thing is it sucks losing somebody in the secondary. We're pretty thin on that as it is in the RFL when it comes to high overall players. So anytime you see a starting secondary guy go down, that's always a tough break.
Yeah, tough one for sure, man. And so let's go ahead and get a look at the post that I dropped earlier on Instagram. We're going to look at the top 10 power rankings in the RFL right now. Now, these weren't my picks because it definitely would have been some other teams that are not on here, up here. But I just went off of what Madden had literally ranked in the franchise so far. So for the number 1 team they got on here, they got the Celtic Tigers. At number 2, they got the Red Dragons, followed by the Huskies at number 3. Got your team, Bill, the Explorers at 4, Black Knights at 5, Cougars at 6, Crusaders at 7, Barrens at 8, Steamers at 9, and Armadillos at 10. So looking at this top 10 power rankings list, of course, it's early. Things always shape out to look crazy like this, but what is your thoughts on these rankings by Madden?
I honestly think it is pretty accurate. Of course, this is going off of 1 week, so chances are this is going to look very, very different in a few weeks and definitely in a month or two. But yeah, I actually sort of agree with what they have here. There's some teams you might swap around or whatnot, but for the most part, it's pretty good. I think my team should be higher, but hey, you know what? Whatever.
I do agree with it. I do feel like these rankings for, I guess, what has happened is pretty solid. And, definitely some teams are going to be on the come up. Not really too much to say about that. Let me know in the chat, guys. What do you guys think about these rankings? I've already seen some people were saying some things in the on the post earlier on social media. Let me know in the chat what you guys think about that, and probably bring that up towards the end if you want to talk about the rankings and who you feel should be in the top 10 right now or is going to be in the top 10 in the future. And so with that being said, we got off of injuries. Let's talk about a guy coming back from injury. He's going to be starting this week, this upcoming Thursday against the Dreadnoughts. Devin Hobart returns back from injury after suffering from a hand injury in practice, with an incoming defender coming to get to him for a sack. But as he threw the football and brought his throwing hand down, he hit the opposing defender's helmet. And so that caused him to miss the first weekend. The Bisons did end up losing that game. It was a great game, though, still by Joseph Torres and the team, but still unable to get it done. What do you think, now having Devin Hobart back, what is he going to bring to this Bisons team? Do you think that they're going to be able to get their first win of the season with him back against the Dreadnoughts?
That's a tough one to say, because they played a heck of a game last week, and of course we never know what the answer will be or what if this would have happened. But I do feel that based on how close the game was and some of the inconsistencies we saw with Torres towards the second half, I think that they might have pulled that off if Hobart was in the game. There's nothing wrong with saying that Hobart's a better quarterback. His awareness is through the roof. He's got more time in the RFL, so I think they very well could get a win this weekend. Especially I know last week didn't affect not having Cam Jones for the Dreadnoughts a whole lot, but that's going to become a factor at some point or another before he comes back. And the Bisons are a good team to have to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. Like you said, and we said earlier on, even before the season start, Joseph Torres, he's got great potential, but he just simply is not the better quarterback right now for this team. Devin Hobart, he's been a great quarterback for them throughout this whole franchise existence. Yeah, of course, everyone has their bad games from time to time, but this guy, guys talking about sit him, and he didn't even get an opportunity to play only except once in the preseason, and that was against the Celtic Tigers, where he only got to play in the fourth quarter. Yeah, he played horrible, but if you look at the players that they had assigned with him, he had nothing but like second and third and fourth string guys and receivers who couldn't get open playing against a Celtic Tigers defense. Their second team is solid. So, of course it's going to look that way. And, it's a good thing. At least Joseph Torres got to get his first game in the RFL, got to throw 3 touchdowns. That's a big thing, something to work with. It might be the last time he'll be able to record some stats with Devin Hobart being back, but you never know. But I think Devin Hobart coming back is definitely going to send this offense to another level, even though they look great. But also, I really feel that Devin Hobart, he's only one guy. And this defense of the Oklahoma City Bison is what's going to have to get addressed. Because if they play like they did against the Armadillos, this is going to be a team losing games. Not because of the offense, not because of Devin Hobart, not because Joseph Torres isn't starting. They're going to lose a lot of their games because their defense cannot hold anybody. And if you put up 34 points and still lose a game, that says a lot about your defense. So that's all I got to say about that return. But I do feel like this is a great return to really elevate the offense some more against the Dreadnoughts. And before we get into that game, as a matter of fact, we might as well get into the game as we'll get a look at the upcoming week. So going into that game with Devin Hobart back, let's go individually on who you think is going to win this game. So Dreadnoughts versus Bisons. Who do you think and why?
Dreadnoughts versus Bisons. I think the Bisons are going to win this one. I think Hobart's a very solid quarterback. Having him come back is going to be a huge boost to the team. The Dreadnoughts, they're missing their best receiver. Like I said, it wasn't an issue last week. It might be this week. If you have to have a shootout with Hobart, you're going to need your best weapon. And like you mentioned before too, McBride was not playing the greatest for the Dreadnoughts. So if that rolls into week 2 and Hobart's fresh and ready to roll, I see the Bisons pulling this one out.
All right, now I'm going to have to go opposite with you here on this one. I bet it against my Dreadnoughts before. Not going to do it again. And the reason why I'm not is because I really feel like the Dreadnoughts, also with home field advantage, they have the better defense. Like I said, the defense is terrible. And even if McBride doesn't play the best, he is playing up against a defense that really isn't that good, even though the Bisons do have really good corners with Parker Brockers and, of course, the player of the weekend, Trey Sinclair. But, this is a team that has a really good run game. And the Bisons were terrible at stopping Carlos Berry running the football, and he was nowhere near as fast or elusive as a running back as Javante Gilliam is. And I've been getting caught up on names here, man. I'm telling you. But Javante Gilliam is just he looked amazing last week, and as for his comparison with Carlos Berry, I think he's got 83 speed. And he was still outrunning and breaking tackles on guys. I don't feel that this team is going to be able to handle this offense at all, even if McBride is not playing well. And I feel that the defense is going to be able to hold Devin Hobart in that offense a lot more than that defense that they saw against the Armadillos.
I'm sorry, I just saw that they're talking in the chat. Apparently, Mitchie thinks Frankie is hot. What is going on in this chat right now?
Oh, yeah, y'all. He's bugging.
Oh my God!
You don't say those things during live streams.
Jesus.
That's wild.
Okay, I'm good now.
Moving on from that. Hopefully, we'll never have to bring that up again. It will be talked about in the Discord though. But on Twitch, following that game, it's going to be the Elks versus the Snowhawks. Speaking of Mitch, who do you think is going to win now?
Just because of that, the Elks are winning, man. I can't let them win this game now. No, I'm just kidding. I do think the Elks will seriously win this game. They have a sour taste in their mouth after last week. And, as we know, Snowhawks have no starters. Well, half of their starters are gone. So I think the Elks bounce back and get the W this week.
Yeah, I feel the same. I really do feel like those teams that the Snowhawks are going to struggle more without their starters now that Casey Chris has to play all 4 quarters. He didn't look too bad in preseason. He looked like he can at least hold up this team enough before Joseph Gidley and the suspension uplifts. But I think the Elks are going to bounce back. I feel like Coach Law is going to get something to work this week that's going to be able to notch the Snowhawks on the road there in Portland. And so following that game on Friday, we have the Aviators taking on the Pioneers. And the Aviators and Pioneers versed each other in the preseason. Final score of that one was 36-16. Now they meet each other for real in the regular season. Who do you think is going to win that
one? Anybody who's playing the Pioneers is going to win the game. I'll take the Aviators. I think I love Kingston Kenny. I don't know what it is. I just love watching him play. I think he'll have a good game, and I think the Aviators will win that one.
Yeah, I'm agree with you. I think we should just move on to the next set of games. I don't think there's anything else to say about that. I just don't feel like they could compete with the Aviators. Maybe, I think they'll shock us at one point with a victory. I don't think they'll go winless like the Steamers did back in season 3, but you see their improvement. But still, the Pioneers against the Aviators didn't look too good in the preseason when the starters were out. I don't think they'll look too good this week either. And so instead of we'll go in order here. Now let's go and get a look at the premier games that will be streamed the day after on Saturday. So with that being said, at 1 p.m. Eastern, it is the Houston Gunners taking on the Marshals. Who do you think wins that one?
Wow, that's a really good matchup. That's a tough one to call. I think I'm going to go with the Marshals with this one, just because they're at home, and I think their defense is playing incredible. So, I'm going to take the Marshals in that one.
Yeah, I'll take the Marshals as well. I just don't feel like their defense on the Gunners side is good enough to really stop the offense of the Marshals, and that Marshals defense is looking phenomenal. And we've already seen with the Steamers how Jabri Jackson and them look. It looks like they still have trouble with the receivers getting open, and with Levi Mack on the other side of the field, it's going to be a tough game for the Gunners. I don't think they win it. Next game is the Lancers taking on the Diablos. Who you got on that
one? This is another pretty good matchup. My heart's telling me the Lancers. Eventually they got to figure something out. I mean, these guys should be rushing for 200 yards a game, if not more. I think I'll stick with the Lancers in this one. I think they'll come into Mexico City and they'll pull it out. I'm not sure how yet, but I have a feeling.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. I think the Lancers, they may figure out that running game at least a little bit. I think their running back's going to have more success. I still feel like the firepower in terms of the run game for the Diablos isn't exactly there yet. I know they got the rookie Madison Axel, but that offense, unless they really put up some crazy numbers on the ground and the passing game with Aaron Pritchett gets going, I think that, I don't think that they'll be able to really beat or outdo the Lancers in this game. But like you said, it all comes down to the run game of the Lancers. They figure that out, they win more games, and they should be able to win that one if they do, and I think they will. And same game there at 4 p.m. We have the Orlando Sentinels taking on the Bulldogs in London. Who do you think wins this one?
This one I got another bounce back. I got to go with Tor and the Sentinels. I think they're going to bounce back, and they're going to put a whooping up on these Bulldogs here. That's what I think.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to agree with that as well. And I just think that the Bulldogs' first 2 games, crazy, man. And division games, and like you said, that division is kind of crazy when you think about it. We'll have to see what goes on. Definitely should be a very interesting game to watch. And I think it'll be a good one that the Sentinels come out and bounce back from the win. At 6 p.m. Eastern, we have the Chicago Cougars traveling to Houston to take on the Voyagers. Who you got in that one?
I got the Cougars in that one. I got the Cougars. They're going to take that one. I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on that one. I got the Cougars as well.
Yeah.
And for the next game, we have the Bulls taking on the Huskies. That's a good matchup right there in the AFC. Who you got winning that one?
The Bulls and the Huskies. I'm going to have to go Huskies. I like what Jeff's done with the Bulls, and I think they're going to be a good team. But I mean, I just think the Huskies are a better team overall compared to almost every other team out there. You know, there's only a few that stack up next to them, and I just don't think the Bulls are that team yet.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's going to be somewhat of a close game, or it could be a blowout, depending on how things go. But should make for a great game. And so for our primetime premiere game, your game against the Thunderbirds, always a game everyone looks forward to between two great coaches in this league. And not only that, two great teams with great players, the Toronto Thunderbirds versus the Explorers. Probably shouldn't even ask you who you think's going to win, because you're probably going to go with yourself, as you should.
Yeah, I think we can pull it out. It's always a tough matchup anytime we play the Thunderbirds, and you never know what you're going to get. Preseason we had that crazy last-minute touchdown, and then an onside kick, and then another touchdown, and last season we had that playoff game that went back and forth, and then the other game where I got my butt whooped by them. It's you never know what you're going to get. It's always entertaining. I'm looking forward to it, but I think we can pull it out in the end.
And I'm looking at Coach Kozera's comment right now. He said Thunderbirds are going to crush the Explorers. Is that what you want from me?
Yes, Mark, that is what we want. We want you to just admit you have a good team and stop pretending you're the Pioneers. That's all we want, man. Just stop with the pretending. That's it.
Oh, man.
I'm glad you said that. I want you to want to beat me, as I should you.
Yeah, either way, man, it doesn't matter who loses that game. It's always a great game. Great coaches, great teams. Yeah, have some pride, man. Take some. You already know what your team, man. Come on, 3 straight NFC appearances, 2 NFC Championship appearances, and 2 straight relocation bowl appearances. Like, come on, man. Don't try to act like your team is not top dog around here right now. And you probably would have won that game. You would have won that game against the Huskies if it wasn't for those defensive pick six of that defense by who was that? I think it was Brett Rattay and Pascal. So man, your team probably could have had 2.
Yeah, I know Mark just likes to be humble, but come on now, man. We all know that you have a solid team. You should enjoy this while you have a great team. You're never guaranteed anything. Enjoy it while it lasts.
And so that would close. Oh yeah, you already chose yourself, right?
Oh, of course.
Well, this is a tough game for me, man. I don't think I'm gonna pick. well, I guess I'm gonna go with the spread. I did say that I think I got the Thunderbirds winning. But we'll have to see how that one. It really could go either way. I just picked some team, to be honest.
You don't have to sugarcoat it, Smitty. You always pick the Thunderbirds against me. You always do. It's okay.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I'm not really necessarily sugarcoating, because it really is hard to decide who's going to win every time you guys play. Before in the past, it wasn't like that. Before you showed up. But yeah, it's been some close, good games between y'all. So it don't matter. I could be wrong. Could be right. We'll have to see. Going back to the primetime games, we have a good one here between 2 new coaches. Coach Bacigalupi and the Crusaders travel to New York and Brooklyn to take on the Barrens. So who you got winning that one?
That is a very good matchup, man. I don't even know who to pick. I think both teams, the Barrens played better, I think, than the Crusaders did, just because a few of the points that were scored on the Barrens were sort of garbage time, as to where. But I mean, really, the Crusaders did the same thing. I mean, it's really a toss-up. I'm gonna just go with. I'm gonna go with the home team. I'm gonna go with the Barrens. Maybe it'll give some more. I don't know, more chips for Christian to I don't know, make posts about this week about people doubting him. Give him some more locker room pin-up stuff.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty solid game, really good matchup. I do have the Barrens in this one. I guess I kind of went with the home field advantage, but it should, once again, another game that's like a toss-up. Don't know how it's going to turn out. The next game, division rivalry matchup there in the AFC East, the Celtic Tigers and the Black Knights. Man, what a matchup. Who you got winning that one?
Dude, I'm going to pick the Celtic Tigers every game, unless Drake Howell is not playing, and then I'm still probably going to pick him because Justin Jones plays as well too. So, Celtic Tigers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Celtic Tigers here, too. I kind of look at the spread, though, and the spread we had for bets was that I had it where the Celtic Tigers has to win by 14, but now after I saw their performance against the Sentinels, I don't think they're as bad off as I thought they were, but I still think that the Celtic Tigers should win that game. Moving on to the Monday games, final day of week 2, we have the Conquistadors versus the Red Dragons. Who you got?
You already know, man. Red Dragons. I'm not going to pick against them this year. It's going to be tough for me to go otherwise, just because Conquistadors are a solid team. I'm not saying that they're a pushover, but the Red Dragons are they're just a different story right now, you know? So I got to roll with them until something happens.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'll go with the Red Dragons. I think it's going to be a pretty good game at first, and then I think it's going to start to separate as it did for the Aviators last week against the Red Dragons. And for the final game on Twitch, we have the Steamers versus the Shamrocks. Who you got?
Steamers and Shamrocks. This is another good game here. I think I like what Coach Forsey has done with the Shamrocks, but I really like what Jones has done with the Steamers, and I think that they're riding high after their win against the Gunners. So I'm gonna stick with the Steamers. I'm gonna go Steamers.
Well, this time I'll go a little bit opposite with you. I think that the Shamrocks are actually going to be pretty good this year. I think Tom Wilson isn't going to be looking anything like he did last season, even though it wasn't necessarily bad. The only problem he had was taking care of the football, and I think he's going to do a much better job of that. And as we've said, and Coach said himself, they struggle against scrambling quarterbacks. They were able to contain Jabri Jackson, but with more weapons at the receiver position, I think Tom Wilson is a bit more dangerous and may be too much for their defense to handle. And so I will go with the Shamrocks in that one. And so with that being said, I believe, let me go back to the layout, I think. Oh, yeah. Which game do you think, to you, is the most interesting this week that you would encourage everyone to watch if they could be there?
My game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean, my game, I think the Thunderbirds and Explorers game is going to be really good. At least I hope. Watch me say this and then I get blown out or some stupid crap like that. But I want to make sure I say another game aside from that because I don't want to be biased. I think the Barrens and the Crusaders are a very interesting matchup. I know there's other ones, but I love watching when the new coaches are sort of, gelling and they're starting to understand things a little bit more and seeing how they respond to a win or a loss. So I'm excited to see Christian and Roland go at it this week.
Yeah, it's a lot of good games this week. Games this week. I'm definitely going to go with your game for the must-watch this week. But just to point out some really key matchups to watch this week, I really think that the Bison's Dreadnoughts game is going to be great. I think the Black Knights Celtic Tigers, Crusaders Barrens, especially the Steamers and the Shamrocks. Not even going to look the Pioneers' way. The Bulls and the Huskies. And and the Gunners and the Marshals. So just about almost every game. But those are games definitely you want to attend.
Yeah. Yeah, you could pick anywhere from 3 to 6 games this week that are good matchups to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to bet against spreads. And speaking of spreads, let me just go over those. I don't have a graphic for it, but I'll just call them out. And so for the first game, for anyone who's doing bets, make sure you turn those bets in by tomorrow before the game at 6 p.m. Eastern. So for the Dreadnoughts and Bison's game, we got the Dreadnoughts spread by 2.5. So the Dreadnoughts got to win. I'm going to just say how much they got to win by. So the Dreadnoughts by 3. The Elks and Shamrock and Snowhawks game is the Elks by 6. And on Friday, we got the Aviators and the Pioneers. We got the Aviators by 10. On Saturday, going to the Premier games, we have the Thunderbirds by 4. For the Gunners and Marshals game, got the Marshals by 5. Lancers and Diablos game, Diablos by 8. Sentinels and Bulldogs game, we got the Sentinels by 6. Cougars and Voyagers, got the Cougars by 10. Bulls and Huskies, got the Huskies by 13. Sunday we have back to the primetime games. We got the Crusaders and Barrens. Barrens by 4. Celtic Tigers and Black Knights game, as I said earlier, 14. And then to close out the week with the last games, you had the Conquistadors and the Red Dragons. Got the Red Dragons by 12. And the Steamers and Shamrocks games got the Shamrocks by 5. So those are the spreads. So make sure that you check those out and put your bets in before the game tomorrow, like I said, and the Discord if you're a part of it. So make sure you go ahead and do that and come up on some money. Also, we made a new rule with the bets. You can bet on single games now, only like one game though. So if you know that you really can't bet the 3, because we did see a lot of people lose their reload bucks this past week. If you want to take a safe bet and go with one game, you can do that. You'll have a smaller payout if you win it, but at least you get some more reload bucks. So that's how that's going to go this week. But other than that, we are done the podcast with all the things we needed to cover. If there's any questions you guys want to ask us or any things you just want to talk about the RFL in general, make sure you ask away right now in the comments section.
I'm wondering how many questions we're going to get, because it's been sort of a quieter chat tonight. A weird chat, that's for sure. I don't know what Mitch and Frankie and them are doing tonight in those chats, but...
Definitely a weird one.
It's hard to concentrate sometimes. You got some of these weird things going on in the chat.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have peeped that until you said something about it. I was like, whoa.
Well, somebody's making some comments. I'm like, wait a minute here. Mitchie, what's going on here? You gotta calm down.
I think, well, I'm not even going to justify it, so because you just can't say that. So I'm not even going to say anything. I'll leave that alone. I was trying to be in your corner, man, but, you know, I can't say nothing.
Okay, so we got Markel has for you, how about them Bulldogs?
How about them, man? 23 points.
Dude, they got smoked, man.
Yeah, they got smoked. They got smoked. They got smacked. And they probably going to get smacked this week against the Sentinels, but you know what? You know, they got a hard schedule.
You know they are.
Yeah, they probably are. But I'm not going to say that they are automatically, though. They could surprise us, man. They could surprise us.
We got Chrome here. What's the difference between Twitter and Facebook?
They're different platforms. That's all I can say.
Yeah, they're different platforms.
They look
One
different,
you can type
but they
more
do
than
the
142 characters.
Yeah. That's it. And that's Facebook. But that's where the old heads are at, you know, where everybody's grandmoms, you know, aunt, all those people, they're around on there.
Jacob Reed wants to know how many new coaching applicants have applied and how many spots are open. Is there a specific way you can determine which teams go to which coaching candidates? So how the coaching candidates work, we have 3 applicants, I think, right now of applications we got since yesterday. The teams work, I think there's, 10 teams available now after a few guys left?
Yeah, I think so. Could probably be less.
Something about 10 teams left, and basically once we do the interview, if you are hired as a coach, we will send you a list of the teams that you are able to take over. You make the choice out of that list, and then, you know, you get to work.
And I'm going to make it be known now, there's not going to be anyone who gets the Celtic Tigers that's new. That's just, I'm putting it out there now. Because the Celtic Tigers, legendary team and everything, and it's a lot of pressure on that team, and we just want to make sure that team plays at its best like it should. And it's got to be somebody who's been here, who knows everything, in order to get an opportunity to coach them in the future with Drake Crowell there. We just want to make sure that team plays at its best, and we don't want that being curved. And then also, I am going to put an end to where coach applications are going to be during the season, and that'll be when the playoffs hit, because I don't want new coaches coming in during the playoffs. So that'll be the cutoff date. Once the regular season ends, no more coaches can apply. But we do have spots open other than the Celtic Tigers. Teams will be offered. It depends on, how good of a candidate you are and what you know about the league, and, how we feel about you possibly coaching. Because there's a lot of guys coming here blowing up a lot of smoke, saying they could do this, they could do that. And as soon as they become a coach, they don't do anything that they said. And I'm making sure now that, new guys we get, if they can't hold up to that standard, we're just getting rid of them. And that's just how we're rocking from there.
Yeah, yeah, and then the reason that like Smitty wants to be a little bit more precautious with this because we don't want guys coming in that don't know what's going on and just changing everything. So like I'm gonna tell you guys right now, if you're listening, if your plan is to come in and be the coach of the Bisons and just start Torres because you've heard him complain a lot in the chat about not
Yeah.
starting, you're probably gonna get fired rather quickly. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. And not to mention, if you are a new incoming coach, I will definitely allow you reign over your team. But what we will discuss for guys who are having meetings, well, their interviews today, is there will be certain players and certain moves that you absolutely cannot make while you're on their team, on your team for your first year. Because I just want to make sure that I police these teams up for at least the first year when guys are new, because guys tend to come in and not know anything and try to make drastic moves in trades. And I was laughing earlier about Mix talking about the Celtic Tigers. I might as well go ahead and say it because, yeah, that's the reason. Mix is a great coach, man, and he couldn't really handle the Celtic Tigers. And so if somebody is his caliber who does or puts a lot into this league is unable to do that at that moment, I don't feel like anybody right now can coach that team. And we're going to have to. It's going to have to be a veteran of some sort or somebody who has very good experience and has been around. It's going to have to coach those teams. Probably most likely once they, hop off the teams that they are currently coaching or something of that nature.
Yeah. So if you want to be a coach, get your application in. We're doing interviews. We're doing interviews tonight, right?
Yeah, we're doing interviews right after this podcast. You must be 18 years or older. You must own a PlayStation 4. You must be able to pay at least either $10 per month or $120 for the year up front. And you must have good internet to be able to stream. If you don't meet these requirements, don't even apply. Please don't.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Then the next question we got here is this is probably more up your alley because I am not a betting man. I don't know how this spread stuff works. Frankie wants to know if you can do a longer parlay later, like 4 games pays out more and 5 games pays out even more. I don't know what that means.
We already have that system in. We have it where 3 games. If you bet on 3 games in the RFL with your Relo Bucks, you get 50% of what you put forward for that game, for those 3 games, right? So if you put $100 up, you get $50 plus your 100 back for winning those 3 bets. If you bet 6 games, you get twice as much, which means pretty much the same amount that you bet, you get back extra. And then if you do 9 games, then you get 150% times more money. And so that'll be $150 if you put up $100. And then it will be 200 times as much as you put up if you bet more than 9 games, which is hard, but that's a good payout if you get it right. And that's only for guys who's betting $100. You could bet more than that. If you really think that your bets are going to be good and you got the spreads to cover and everything, and you put 9 games and you put maybe $1,000. I know most guys don't have 1,000 Relo Bucks right now, but for guys, when you do get your bands up in the Relo Bucks and you do that, those payouts could be, those could be pretty big, especially if you put a lot of money up on a 3-game bet. Just think about that. That's a lot of money you could get for Relo Bucks off of that as well.
Yeah, I should probably learn a little bit more about this whole thing because, for one, I want to win some Relo Bucks. I think I bet once, all right? I bet on DWJ the other night, and how did that turn out for me, Smitty?
Terrible.
Terrible, yeah.
Terrible.
One time I bet, and everybody loses, so I'm not betting no more.
Yeah, and I would also ask you guys, I guess you guys would do it. If you feel like a guy knows his stuff and he's betting, okay, you could go ahead with him. But if don't try to go off of what somebody else bets, because if he loses money, every single one of you guys are going to be losing your Relo Bucks, and then you're going to be sick if you ain't got no cash and that dude just burnt $1,000, but he had bank, so it didn't matter to him, but you're broke. You don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, and don't listen to me because I don't know how to bet properly. I'm a Vikings fan, for crying out loud. I don't know what's going on. And we got Ethan. If you could start a new team, what player would you start with? That's a good question.
Somebody asked Ethan that?
Ethan asked us that.
Oh, okay. And he
Come
asked
on,
what
we're
again?
doing the Q&A session here.
I thought because you said Ethan first, so I thought it's somebody asked Ethan. So I was like, what? I didn't get it. But what was the question again? Because that threw me off.
It says, if you could start a new team, what player would you start the team with? Like, who would be your number one player that you would want to have?
Dre. Who else?
You gonna
Dre
pick a
Crowell.
37-year-old quarterback to start your franchise with?
It's Dre.
Dude.
It's Dre, dude.
I
Come
know, but
on.
like, don't you want to pick like?
Okay, so in terms
Honestly,
of a
man,
young
if I'm
guy,
starting a new team, I'm probably gonna go Justin Jones.
yeah. Or how about this? How about this, y'all?
What?
Marquise Washington.
Oh God, he's not even in the league yet with his little head.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess if y'all had to pick, I'll go with Justin Jones. Definitely.
Yeah, I think Justin Jones would be a good pick just because we know that he's already ready to start if need be, and he's just sitting back there behind Dre waiting for him to retire finally, which probably won't be for a while.
Yeah, he had a killer preseason too, man. So Edits, I see a question from Edits. It says, so how do you guys get these teams to face each other since there's only so limited? So people ask this question all the time. We split we do not relocate all 32 teams, guys. Everybody keeps asking this question. There is no way that you can relocate 32 teams in a Madden franchise. So the best closest thing to do, which is what we do, is we just split our conferences by franchises. So we got 16 relocation teams on one conference in a different franchise, and in the other franchise, it's the same thing with the other 16 teams to make up the entire 32, which is why we have auto win games when they play NFL teams. Because if we did relocate all 32 teams, then we wouldn't have NFL teams to worry about. So, and a lot of guys ask that question, and so like I said, there's no secret to it. And at the end of the day, a lot of guys have been trying to make their own relocation league. So, I'm not withholding no information. If you guys want to try to, I guess, do what y'all want to do, I mean, you could go ahead and do that. But at the same time, everyone's going to know where the idea came from. But if that's what you want to do, like in the future, I do plan on probably dropping a video on explaining on how you can, pretty much just start up your own little relocation league thing. That's going to take some time though, but that'll be out at some point.
You could have made that answer a lot cooler. You could have said we have a secret in at EA or something,
Ain't gonna lie about it, man.
Okay, we got. I'm trying to figure out where we're at here in the chat. I think the next one is from Smith Entertainment. Who's going to be worse, the Monarchs or the Pioneers? The answer to that question is rhetorical because we all know the answer is the Pioneers.
You really think the Pioneers gonna be that bad? Because the Monarchs look really bad right now. They look worse right now.
Do I need to remind you that the Huskies sat their starters in a real game and still beat them by multiple scores?
I see mix going on. Yeah, this is why I encourage guys not to try to start a relocation league and stuff. Because so many guys are trying it, but at the end of the day, it's only but so many teams. You're not going to be able to, start up your own thing. So at the end of the day, we're not worried about that aspect. If guys start their own, you can do it, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be different from us. So you're pretty much making your league for people to come watch ours. At the end of the day, that's kind of like what you're doing. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. A lot of guys ask it, and I'll be like, "You look, it's cool to do it for fun on your own time, but if you start doing a league, man, the dedication that we have towards this, man, it's crazy. So if you really want to try to get in that competition stage, you better have yourself a staff and be dedicated, because you ain't gonna outdo us on this Madden stuff, man. That's all I'm saying. Our staff is built.
Yeah, we're pretty cool. I think we have like one or two more questions here. Who do we see winning? What? Am I not reading this right? RDPOY. That's got to be a yearly award, but I don't know what that stands for.
Rookie Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, boy. Wow, that went right over my head.
So who I see winning that? Who you think, man?
Jason Henderson.
Yeah. He might. I think he. Bull had pretty much had 3 sacks.
Yeah, he did.
First game.
Madden stat cheated him out of that third, but he had 3 sacks.
Yeah, Ethan. Ratchet football. Y'all killing me right now with these. I see JTP asking about a default roster. Our rosters are unable. You won't be able to get our rosters. And the reason why you won't be able to is because we simply don't have it where we transfer our rosters in. And we don't create them. We create them in an actual franchise file. So we literally have to recreate our rosters from scratch, from down to each individual player, each new year, each new Madden. So there's no way of you guys being able to actually use and play with our rosters. I wish there was a way so that guys could actually, like, I guess, play with some guys if they wanted to and stuff like that. But yeah, you ain't gonna be able to do that. What I will start doing though is after drafts, I'll start posting out the draft class, but by the time the draft class come out, the new Madden will most likely be coming out as well. So almost no point of even using that. But if you would like to, play with those players, you can go ahead and test that out. See, somebody posted in the RFL community thing.
Yeah, I saw that. You skipped my question earlier. What did Joseph Torres ask? Dude, how much earlier did you ask this question? Where is it?
I don't see where his question is. I see him talking about bets. You're gonna have to type that out again, my guy, because I can't find it.
I don't see it.
Okay, Jamie D says, do you think Madden will be better on new gen? I do, but I kind of feel like don't be too surprised of it being a big change. I feel like it's, for the most part, it's going to be the same. Probably going to add some new features and stuff like that. The graphics, I think, are going to look a lot better. Well, not a lot. Probably, well, it could be a lot better. They always do good on graphics. So, we're just going to have to see when the game comes out. It is a new console. I don't think they're going to come out guns blazing because they don't know the whole capacity of the system and everything yet. Well, or how, we're making all of that yet. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a good Madden. I don't think it's going to be something completely different, though, if you get what I'm saying.
I think a lot of people need to sort of lower their expectations on how the first Madden on PS5 is going to be. I think that they're going to need a solid year or two to really understand what they're working with the new system before everything's going to work properly. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Madden 21, if they do release one, like a re-release after the PlayStation 5 comes out, is maybe a little bit more glitchy or not as many features or something like that, because they have to rebuild this game now on the whole new system, which that is a lot of work to do. So I know that we all want EA to be much better than they have been, and that we deserve that they are, but I honestly think that they would be pretty amazing if they were able to roll out a full game that's improved on the PlayStation 5 come the end of this year.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think it'll just be a decent improvement, but nothing huge. And I see Joseph Torres finally asked this question: I asked who the greatest coach all time is, I guess. So in terms of that, if you're talking about user coaches in the RFL, I guess would have to go off of success. And so as of right now, the guy, I guess, who had the most success over his career because he's been here longer has, of course, been Coach Kozera. But, man, like, there's a ton of good coaches this year. It's definitely tough for Coach Kozera now also with the coaches he's got in his division. You got Bill here. You got Roland. We got the dogs barking. Well, we got a lot of good coaches, man, in this league now. And Yeah, but as of right now, in terms of credentials of what they've done since they've been here, it's been Coach Cozera because he's been here the longest and has had the most success as of so far.
I swear, I get closer and closer to having PETA called on me every day of the week.
Dogs just going haywire, huh?
Yeah, it's always at the drop of a hat. Like, I don't think my brain or my hand is fast enough to mute my mic. There's just not enough response time.
It's all good. Okay, I see Edit says they need to add it where you can make teams. Yeah, that would be awesome if they could do that.
Do you think Madden will be on the Oculus Rift?
I think that's something coming in the future, but I doubt Madden will go on there. I think a football game will be on there.
Wait, what the heck's an Oculus Rift?
You don't know what an Oculus Rift is, my guy?
Dude, why would I ask the question if I knew?
Because I'm just trying to really make sure with strong confirmation that you really don't know what an Oculus Rift is right now. You don't know what an Oculus Rift is.
No, man, I don't know what an Oculus Rift is, all right?
Oh, my
Everybody
God.
bashed me in the chat. I don't know what an Oculus Rift is.
Okay, well, Oculus Rift, right? It's a big. It's like those glass. You've seen it, man. I know you've seen it. It's like them big, the big glasses things you put on your head, and you can play the game by looking through with your actual eyes.
Dude, are you talking about virtual reality?
I mean, it is virtual reality, but that's not what it's called. I don't know what.
That sounds like virtual reality.
Nah, it's Oculus Rift.
Dude, who came up with? How is that the name for it?
You know what? I mean, I don't know if I know where they got Oculus from, but I don't know the exact word. I know it's something with an Oculus, something with your eye. So with it using your eyes, I'm assuming that's where they got the name from. But it is virtual reality. Yeah, VR. It's like VR.
Sounds way overcomplicated than what it could have been.
Yeah, it is.
But
you know what I'm talking
one
about.
Who didn't know what it was?
Nah, I'm pretty sure right now, yes.
Yeah, Rob called me an old head in the chat. That's awesome.
Yeah, Rob's older than you, so that's.
I'll accept that.
Tell you, for an old head, man, Rob know a lot of things. A lot of old heads don't know, but I didn't think that he'll know that before you did, Bill.
Oh, whatever. I guess I'm behind on the time.
I mean, but at least you knew what it was, though. I mean, you knew it was virtual reality. You know what I mean? But you just didn't know the name of it.
I didn't no idea what it was. I thought maybe there's a new game console or something coming out and I didn't hear about.
You sound like you were so astonished. Oculus Rift? What is this? What is this? Let me check this out.
I'm be honest, it's the first time I've ever even heard those two words together.
So hold up, 10 years?
Chat right now.
It's been out for 10 years?
It has not been out for 10 years. Stop it.
It's been out for a minute, man. I don't know if 10 years, but it's probably got to be somewhere close, like 8, 9. It's been a minute.
Whatever.
Hey, I'll tell you what, since we haven't done any reload bucks thing, the first person who can come back with the information of when the Oculus Rift first came out will get 300 reload bucks.
Oh, snap. 300 reload bucks on the line right now.
Yep. So you got 3 minutes for 300 reload bucks. Right now it's 9:37 p.m. Eastern. Whoever could tell me the exact time and send the link, I guess, you can't even send a link. But whoever could tell me the times and I'll check it up. If it's correct, I'll give you 300 points in the Discord. So the first one to do it will get it.
Are we waiting it out for the chat for them to put it in the chat?
Yeah. But then, yep, you can wait it out. It says that we've only been streaming for, it has been over an hour, but our last stream was like 2 hours. We're at an hour and almost 25 minutes.
We got 2 guesses so far. We got August 1st, 2012 is the most exact date.
I'm taking screenshots of this so I can make sure that I'm keeping up with it.
I'm gonna ask Google.
Joseph Torres, you're automatically eliminated for 2,780. What the heck?
You're eliminated trying to say that number.
Yeah. It confused me. I was like, 2007. How you say this? Well, for guys who are trying to figure out the reload bucks, if you're not a part of the Discord, you can't get the reload bucks. So don't try to give answers.
Dude,
If you're not
it's
part
August
of the
1st is 2012 is the correct answer.
It is a correct. Okay. Well,
So
Frankie was the one that
gets
did it.
it.
Frankie, $300, baby. That's what I'm talking about. You can go ahead and spend some of them reload bucks on with Mitch on a date. Oh man.
Is that everything we got? I don't see anything else coming through for questions.
Yeah, I think that's it for the questions because we definitely got to get up out of here so we can interview, Jacob and them for the coaching spots.
Yeah, we gotta get some new coaches in here. So
yeah, before you guys know it, we'll have some new coaches starting this week. Probably get the information on who's going to be a coach of what team by tonight. We'll have to see, but yeah, gonna have to roll up out of here. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate you guys coming through as always, man. Make sure you tune into our podcast every week. We do it every Wednesday. Our times are usually 7:30 or 8, sometimes maybe, 7. But always think from 7 or 8 that we'll go live with these, man. I'm trying to do them every week. We're doing a good job right now. 5th one, 6th one's coming up next week. So, yeah, tune in. Usually they're funny and everything. But if you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button. Been a little bit of a on and off type of stream with some viewers here, but thank you guys for coming through. Peace.